Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook for November 8th, 2025. I know it's been a week since I last uploaded, but there's not really been much happening in the tropics. In fact, let's start off with the latest National Hurricane Center tropical weather bulletin, and there is nothing expected in the Atlantic for the next 7 days. It looks like climatology has set in, and we are now in the month of November, and things are definitely looking very quiet right now. Same goes as well for the Pacific. Nothing expected in the next 7 days there. So looks like there's really not much happening in the Atlantic. So I guess that's why I've not been posting a lot. But obviously, since it's still November, we'll still continue to be doing these updates every once in a while. Um, Although there is stuff happening not just in the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic, and I'll show you that in a moment. But I do want to show you right now the latest satellite imagery of the Atlantic right now, just to give you an idea of what is going on out there. And obviously, nothing much. Looks like there is a tropical wave here approaching the Caribbean islands right now. Some convective activity present, so you're probably going to see some showers and thunderstorms with maybe some gusty winds throughout the next several days as this wave moves by. But it's definitely weaker. As you know, we're now in the month of November. Tropical waves are now weaker, less likely to develop because atmospheric conditions not as favorable. As you can see here, especially in the eastern MDR, lots of these very, very strong westerly winds cutting across the upper levels, and that's obviously indicative of strong wind shear, and that's typically how the pattern starts to evolve as we head into November and December. And you could also see here in the eastern Atlantic as well, lots of dry air. Again, everything looking more and more typical of a late season and the very end of a hurricane season in the Atlantic. So obviously nothing much happening right now, although obviously you should not, completely throw everything away just yet, because it is still November after all. The hurricane season does not officially end till November 30th. Until then, we're still going to have to keep an eye out on the tropics, but at least for now, things are looking nice and quiet in the Atlantic. But we are still tracking activity in the Western Pacific. There's always something that happens globally. We have a global tropics, we have the Atlantic, the Eastern Pacific, both of which, are quiet now, but we also have the Western Pacific. And in the coming months as well, we're also going to start seeing more things as well occurring in the Southern Hemisphere, so south of the equator. There's always tropical activity happening somewhere in the world, even if it's not happening in our neck of the woods in the Atlantic. And that's what we see here with tropical cyclone typhoon Wang Feng, I think it's its name. And it is right now a major hurricane. Last I checked, winds at 110 knots, so 125 miles per hour. So it is major hurricane intensity, and it's going to head and make a direct landfall in the northern portions of the Philippine Islands. And that's going to happen here as we take a look at the model track guidance in the next 24 hours or so. It's actually Feng Wang, not Wang Feng. I had to get the name right, but Feng Wang going to make landfall in the northern Philippines in the next 24 hours, and then after that, it's going to curve off to the north and then eventually to the northeast. Might bring some impacts, it seems, to Taiwan and maybe the coastal area of China here. So those in those areas, if you are there, you might want to keep an eye out on Feng Wang here. And especially if you are in the northern Philippines, you'll want to prepare, shelter in place, evacuate, and do everything you can to protect yourself from major hurricane Feng Wang, which is again going to make landfall here in the next day. Meanwhile, heading back to the Atlantic, taking a look at current conditions in terms of sea surface temperatures. And this is the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map from the NOAA Coral Reef Watch as of yesterday. The map always updates a day behind. And what is going on in the Atlantic right now? Well, we still have very, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies. Still very warm throughout the Caribbean, although as I think I went over in my last video or so, we definitely saw some reduction in sea surface temperature anomalies here in the Caribbean, all thanks to Melissa, which was a powerhouse hurricane that obviously impacted Jamaica. And we can hope that recovery efforts are underway, and recovery and rebuilding is also getting underway soon in Jamaica here. I mean, we hope so, although Melissa was really a powerful storm. But the remainder of the Caribbean is still very, very warm. And obviously, November, there's still, climatologically speaking, some precedents for development to occur in the month of November still. It's not as strong, especially as October, and we clearly saw that manifest with Melissa. But we could still get activity in the month of November in the Caribbean. We've had several years in the past where that's happened, especially a year like 2020. Although obviously this year is not like 2020, so wouldn't necessarily worry about that. But sea surface temperature anomalies are still very warm in the Gulf, and very interestingly enough, very, very warm out here in the eastern Atlantic, especially in the Canary Current region here, and just in the subtropics off the northwestern coast of Africa. And this is something very interesting that we'll now especially have to watch very closely as we head into the winter months, for potential ramifications on next year, 2026. And we're not really going to go into depth about that right now, but I'm just pointing out, this is pretty interesting, and this will be something to definitely watch in the longer term as we head into the winter months. And we'll also have to watch, on the other hand, La Nina, which is churning out here along the equatorial Pacific with sea surface temperature anomalies, very, very cold along the equator of the Pacific, very typical of a La Nina. In fact, here's the actual latest value of the sea surface temperature anomalies currently in the Pacific, specifically in the Nino 3.4 region where we monitor ENSO. And the latest value right now is 0.79 degrees Celsius below normal here. So that's roughly almost 0.8 degrees Celsius below normal. So still in La Nina range, or weak La Nina range. But as you can see here, especially in the last several days, we saw a pretty significant dip. So it looks like La Nina is definitely holding steady, and probably will continue to do so as we head into the winter months. And obviously this will have its implications on winter too. And we're also going to have to monitor ENSO as well as we head into next year to see what it'll potentially mean for next hurricane season. But obviously that is still ways away. But really quickly, I want to show you as well the MDR in the Atlantic holding very steady, pretty much holding steady since August, as I've said that it would. Especially earlier this year at the beginning of the hurricane season, everybody was pointing out, how cool the MDR is. The Atlantic was not very warm, and then we saw a huge warming in the summer, and then obviously it lasted pretty strongly into September and October. Obviously, that helped fuel things quite a bit with Melissa, especially in the Caribbean. But even after that, because this is the MDR as a whole, not just the Eastern Atlantic, so this takes into account the Eastern Atlantic and the Caribbean, this average here, sea surface temperature anomaly still holding steady, the latest value at 0.5 degrees Celsius. And this will be something for sure that will also be interesting to watch as we head into the winter months and as we head into next year. But let's really quickly go over what is going to happen for now, since we are still in 2025 and we are still in the 2025 hurricane season. What do the models show, at least for us here in the Atlantic, over the next week? And let's take a look at the GFS to see what occurs here. And nothing much happens, at least over the next week. Looks like something does try to get going here, in the far southwestern Caribbean near Central America. And once again, that is sometimes an area that we have to watch for development in the month of November. It's happened in the past, and typically late season Western Caribbean, October and November is where we typically see activity, although November really is much more focused heavily on the subtropics. But again, we could still see activity in November. I mean, we do have a La Nina in place, and as I just showed you with sea surface temperature anomalies, things are still warm. But it looks like whatever does try to develop here or consolidate develops, not quick enough before it ends up moving into Central America. And then it looks like the GFS has some development here in the Eastern Pacific. So maybe we might get an AOI to be highlighted here in the Eastern Pacific for development, maybe in the next day or so, or sometime soon in the next few days. But at least in terms of Atlantic development beyond that, not much else happens. Looks like, there might be a system here that impacts the Northeast. And as we head into the winter months, we're going to have to start watching out for these nor'easters and these huge short waves that move down from, Canada. And from that, we're going to have to watch out and see, maybe are we going to potentially have a chance for snow events here, especially in the Northeast. And we'll also, be talking about that as we get more towards that time period, and that's coming up soon. We're now in November. We typically start seeing chances for snow, usually around early to mid-December, although, in the last few years, not seen really much of that, especially here in the Northeast. But as we head into the winter months, we start focusing a lot more on that kind of pattern, where we watch these big, coastal lows that maybe develop in the form of nor'easters, or we have massive troughs that swing down from Canada and bring lots and lots of cold air into the Northeast and into the eastern half of the United States. And sometimes, especially with polar vortex outbreaks, where we get a huge massive trough to swing down from Canada into the heart of the United States, and we end up getting a massive polar vortex outbreak. And obviously that itself also brings chances for snow as well. And we're going to have to watch out for that more closely as we now start to head again into the month of December and into winter. But in terms of tropics, nothing really seems to be major here on the GFS over the next week. And on the Global Tropical Hazards map from the Climate Prediction Center, as I like to use sometimes, and sometimes this is also a really good map to look at for potential areas for development down the line, longer term. And week 2 and week 3, at least as of the latest issue from this past week, no development is expected at all. And this is now taking us out till pretty much the end of the month, which is the end of hurricane season. So it looks like we might finally, maybe just maybe, be wrapping up this hurricane season. You can't be for sure because it is obviously November still. And again, the season does not end till the end of the month. So until then, we still got to keep an eye out on the tropics. But it looks like there is nothing brewing of any major sort over the next several weeks. So at least for now, it looks like we might be able to breathe a sigh of relief. But of course, we will still be continuing to monitor how things are going on with the tropics over the next several weeks here until the month ends. But with that being said, I'm going to end it off for today's video, since there's not much else to go over. Hope you enjoyed what you saw today. And, as we're now in the month of November, probably not going to be doing daily updates anymore like I did, especially last month and, the month of September, since we're no longer in the peak of the season. We're now in the, ramping down, slowing down moments of the season. Things are now starting to get quiet. I mean, they're already quiet, but it looks like it's going to be quiet from here on out. And honestly, would not be shocked after Melissa if the season already is over, except for maybe a week storm or so that maybe might develop in the subtropics. Not saying that there's any signal for that, but might happen, and we still do not know for sure yet. It's just a matter of waiting to see it happen. But in terms of anything major, not much else going on, so not really going to be doing too much in the way of daily updates for now. So we're going to take off tomorrow, but I will have an update for you on Monday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And if you want to, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and like this video as well if you found today's video informative, of which I hope you did. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you back with more on Monday.